I joined a wildlife group several years ago, not quite realising I was entering a world of intense highs and intense lows. Highs when you successfully rescue an animal, often severely compromised and close to death, but through your care and with appropriate treatment and medication, you watch it recover and thrive, and eventually you're able to return it to its habitat. Or when you're able to share your knowledge, passion and concern for the future of our wildlife, highlighting the crucial part they play in our world. Then you see the stirrings of realisation that develops into a passion for our wildlife and their protection. Lows, when innocent creatures attempting to survive under increasingly difficult conditions and ever decreasing habitats suffer atrocious injuries and illnesses, and despite your every effort and how hard you will them to survive, they don't. Or when you become the subject of bullying, mobbing, because individual egos with their own agendas of self-aggrandizement form a group to denigrate, slander, humiliate, ostracize and isolate you. And seeing so-called friends join that group because they are frightened they might end up on the receiving end. All while the animals who supposedly are the primary reason for being in wildlife rescue and care are ignored or used as pawns and often pay with their lives. It didn't take long for me to realise there were major issues in the management of wildlife care organisations. Obvious disputes and infighting within branches and between branches and competing organisations. There are numerous accounts of verbal abuse and physical violence. Bullying reported to and ignored by management. Poor or absent record keeping leading to misrepresentation of animal records. Misinformation to carers and members of the public from individual members, employees or management of the organisation that can result in the death of animals. Rescues being left for days with animals either dying on site or shortly after rescue, as they are denied even the most basic but essential life-saving treatments such as hydration and first aid. Appropriate responses to mass events, for example, taking action to prevent deaths or further deaths, as large flocks of birds are attracted to major spills of grain on railway tracks, or the exclusion and restriction of access for members during emergency events such as major bushfires or mass casualties from heat stress. Manipulation of financial records and exclusion of executive committee members in managing funds and assets. Exclusion and restriction of members to guidance, mentoring and supervision, resulting in substandard and inappropriate care. Reported and evidenced cases of animal cruelty, some resulting in death, ignored by management and deflected onto those advocating appropriate change in practices, resulting in their suspension and expulsion. What does it say when just about every employee is stressed by the load and nature of their work and state in their personal defence there are major problems in every branch? What does it say when numerous employees suddenly resign and disappear almost immediately after a difficult incident? What does it say when you have a supervisor pleading for you to take a very young, viable baby animal because the carer who has it is not coping? What does it say when that supervisor, knowing full well the load you are under, states if you don't take the animal, it will either be euthanized or given to a person the supervisor and management know from evidence has demonstrated substandard care and is guilty of multiple incidents of negligence, some resulting in death. This being exacerbated by the known fact that this person and many of the bullies had refused on numerous occasions to comply with directives from supervisors and management by refusing to hand animals on to other carers as directed. It was also well known that many of these people had released animals prematurely or before animals had received proper health assessments by experienced carers or vets, often releasing animals that were undoubtedly still compromised, minimising or negating that animal's chances for survival. What does it say when there is meant to be a subcommittee to investigate the barrage of problems and complaints, yet none of the members of whom the subcommittee should comprise knew anything about the issues supposedly being investigated? What does it say when it becomes evident those who eventually appear to be the investigating subcommittee have multiple conflicts of interest? What does it say when the numerous pleas for help to management, those investigating the issues, are repeatedly trivialised and ignored? What does it say when an independent investigator specifically employed to investigate these same issues suddenly disappears with no explanation in the middle of organising individual interviews? What does it say when months that run into years pass without any resolution of any of the numerous complaints? Eventually, in desperation, members can only conclude that management has failed in their duty of care. To the members for allowing the bullying to perpetuate, resulting in ostracism, isolation, depression, and even self-harm ideation. By not providing the support, physically, financially, or emotionally, to continue caring for the numbers of animals they are asking you to rescue and take into care. To the animals for not taking action against those guilty of substandard care or evidenced negligence and cruelty. Members who to this day remain in the organisation being given animals, including babies. Or again, by not supporting members physically in the provision of essential equipment or access to such equipment such as cages, release aviaries, or assistance to repair ageing equipment, or essential medical supplies to enable the hydration and ongoing nutrition required to care for these animals, while expecting you to continue to rescue and care for the never-ending calls, leaving members to source and fund all these themselves in an ongoing toxic environment. What does it say when in one breath management tells you they want to help you, but in the next breath threaten that you will become a casualty? What does it say when very soon after declaring their failure in their duty of care and suggest these issues should be referred to an outside mediator, you very quickly do become a casualty and are suspended or expelled to be humiliated and denigrated by lies? What does it say when the overseeing licensing body also ignores all these complaints of bullying, cruelty, negligence, and the breaches of their licence and constitution? What does it say when a monopoly exists in these toxic areas and the licensing body refuse to issue any further individual or group licences, despite their full knowledge of the many complaints and poor standing this organisation holds throughout the animal industry, including ex-carers, general public, academics and researchers, some of whom have also been bullied by members of this organisation? I haven't mentioned the animals they removed from my care under threats, intimidation and lies, as it's extremely traumatic to even think about them. most of them babies or juveniles who were extremely compromised when they came into my care. So compromised, many were near death. Some had only been in care for a day or two. Several came from other carers who were unable to cope with the severity of the animals' injuries and illnesses. All were still recovering from their ordeals, but definitely on their way to good health and release. They were taken out of the area and not returned. Management refused to say what happened to them, and so I believe that all 23 of them were killed. Why so many? Well, think about it. I was never offered any assistance to repair my aged and damaged equipment. I was never offered assistance to find release sites. However, I was repeatedly and persistently asked by supervisors and management to do more rescues, transport, mentoring and support newer members learning to care for more complex cases, as well as continuing to take in more animals myself while working and having to self-fund everything. As every carer knows, even over short periods of time, this easily expands into thousands of dollars. It is impossible to give detailed accounts of specific incidents in such a short recording. Therefore, this is an overview of my experience. One person who has been a witness and who has been targeted. If you listen to these recordings, you'll hear a few more people with the same or similar experiences, but know that without a doubt, there are many, many, many more people who have been targeted and have very similar stories. Many of them too frightened to speak out for fear of retribution to themselves or innocent animals that may be in their care. My experience in wildlife rescue and care has certainly been an education into the malice of human nature, into an organisation that purports to care for our wildlife, but is more than willing to sacrifice the well-being and lives of our native animals purely out of vindictiveness and spite in order to punish those trying to do the right thing. There is much to be exposed and many who need to be made accountable. This is not the ranting of a disgruntled ex-member, as I'm sure I will be portrayed. Everything I have said is based on evidence I have or easily obtained, unless it has been tampered with. What needs to happen? An independent investigation, a royal commission into these not-for-profit charity organisations before more people are targeted and possibly take their own lives, or our wildlife is so severely impacted through inappropriate care and increasing rates of euthanasia, they are pushed beyond recovery. Why am I doing this? Because this treatment of carers, but more importantly wildlife, can't continue. Do I think I may once again be targeted? What do you think?